The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. In 1908, a Harvard University professor named Dr. Dudley Allen Sargent stood before a captivated press corps and made a bold declaration. After years of scientific measurement, he announced, at least, he had found the perfect woman. Her name was Annette Kellerman, an Australian swimmer, vaudeville performer, and actress. According to Sargent, her body was the most flawless example of female proportions ever recorded, a living embodiment of classical beauty, her figure matching almost exactly that of the ancient Greek statue Venus de Milo. It was the kind of statement that thrilled a society already obsessed with appearance, science, and the promise of perfection. We finish today's episode with a history brief and some strange history. A quick word from our sponsors.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
This day in history. On February 15, 1898, the USS Maine exploded in Havana Harbor, killing 266 American sailors. The disaster was blamed on Spain and helped push the United States into the Spanish-American War. On February 15, 1965, Canada officially adopted the red and white maple leaf as its national symbol. Story of the day. Dr. Dudley A. Sargent was not a charlatan. In his time, he was one of the most respected figures in physical education, a pioneer in biomechanics and exercise science. At Harvard, where he directed the Hemingway Gymnasium and taught in the physical training department, Sargent's work was at the cutting edge of what was then called scientific physiology. He believed that the human body could be understood and perfected through data. He built elaborate machines to measure lung capacity, muscle strength, limb proportions, and flexibility. Using these, he took detailed anthropometric measurements of thousands of men and women, students, athletes, and volunteers, hoping to establish the mathematical ideals of human form. It was an era when progress was measured in inches and ratios. And for Sargent, the question of physical perfection wasn't just about beauty, it was about health, symmetry, and balance. He saw the human body as a living equation of sorts, one that could be optimized through exercise, diet, and discipline. But the world was far more interested in the beauty part. By the early 1900s, the United States, and indeed much of the Western world, was captivated by the idea that science could define beauty. Beauty contests were emerging as public spectacles. Department stores started using mannequins modeled after Greek statues. Eugenics were promoting better breeding for stronger, more beautiful citizens. And popular media eagerly fused art, science, and sexism into headlines about the perfect woman. So when Sargent began comparing the measurements of real women with those of the Venus de Milo, the ancient Greek sculpture of Aphrodite, now housed in the Louvre, it was only a matter of time before his research crossed from laboratory to tabloid. The Venus de Milo, discovered in 1820, had long been considered the gold standard of classical female beauty, an artistic ideal thought to represent balance, fertility, and grace. Sargent's hypothesis was that modern women could, through physical training, achieve those very same ideal proportions. He measured thousands of women in his study, and then, one day, he found the perfect woman. Her name was Annette Kellerman. Born in Sydney, Australia in 1886, Annette Kellerman had been a frail child, suffering from rickets that left her unable to walk without braces. But swimming transformed her life. By her teens, she was not only walking, she was breaking records. She became one of the first women to attempt to swim the English Channel, toured Europe performing swimming exhibitions, and even pioneered the modern one-piece bathing suit, challenging the heavy, modest swimwear of the Victorian age. By 1908, Kellerman was living in the United States, performing synchronized swimming shows and advocating for women's health, exercise, and freedom of movement. Her athleticism, confidence, and grace caught Sargent's attention. After taking her measurements, he compared them to his chart of what he called ideal proportions. And then the numbers, he said, were uncanny. Her body matched the Venus of the Milo, almost exactly. Sargent concluded that Kellerman represented not only physical beauty, but the scientific ideal of health and symmetry. The newspapers, of course, left out the health part. They called her simply the perfect woman. The story exploded, and headlines declared, Harvard professor finds perfect woman. Australian swimmer matches ancient goddess in form. Illustrated magazines placed Kellerman's photograph side by side with the Venus de Milo, inviting readers to compare. The resemblance, they claimed, was mathematical. Kellerman's fame, already growing, skyrocketed. She was cast as the living symbol of ideal womanhood, a perfect blend of classical proportion and modern vitality. But she was also a modern woman in every sense, outspoken, athletic, and independent. She spoke openly about physical fitness, calling exercise the birthright of every woman, and warned against the corsets and restrictive fashions of the day, which she said cripple the body and crush the spirit. To a generation of women just beginning to step into public life, Annette Kellerman became a revelation, proof that strength and beauty could coexist. Not everyone celebrated Harvard's perfect woman, though. Many conservatives accused Kellerman of immodesty. Her one-piece swimsuit, which exposed her arms, legs, and neck, was considered scandalous. In 1907, she was even arrested on a Massachusetts beach for public indecency. The charge? Wearing her self-designed swimsuit. Her trial made national news. She defended herself, arguing that women needed freedom to move, swim, and breathe. The court ultimately dismissed the case, and her swimsuit design soon became the standard for women everywhere. But the controversy revealed something deeper about the culture that had elevated her to fame. The same society that praised her perfect proportions still policed her body, her clothing, and her autonomy. Harvard's study, in retrospect, was less about celebrating women than defining them, scientifically, socially, and morally. Even Sargent's intentions, though grounded in physiology, carried the assumptions of his time, that beauty, health, and worth could be reduced to just measurement. Kellerman herself pushed back. She used her fame to advocate for women's education and access to physical training. Every woman, she said, can be beautiful in her own way if she has health and confidence. It was a subtle but profound rejection of the very idea that one set of numbers could define perfection. Annette Kellerman's fame endured long after the headlines faded. She starred in silent films, including Neptune's Daughter from 1914, which made her one of the first major actresses to appear nude on screen, though the scene was presented as artistic and mythological. She published fitness books, toured as a health lecturer, and remained an outspoken advocate for women's physical freedom well into her later years. She swam daily into her 70s and died in 1975 at the age of 88, leaving behind a legacy that stretched from sports to cinema to fashion. As for Dr. Sargent, he continued his research into human form and exercise science, helping to establish modern physical education. But his perfect woman announcement, which he likely saw as a lighthearted intersection of art and anatomy, became his most famous and most controversial moment. It encapsulated both the optimism and the blind spots of early 20th century science. A belief that everything, even beauty, could be measured, charted, and perfected. The History Brief. The following comes to us from Strange History by the editors of Portable Press, published in 2016. How could Egyptian mummies, ranging from 800 to 3,000 years old, have traces of cocaine and tobacco in their skin, hair, and bones? Cocaine and tobacco came from plants that grew only in the still undiscovered New World, and weren't accessible to Egyptians after all. Tobacco wasn't introduced to the Old World until the Arawak tribe gave some to Columbus in 1492. After scientist Svetlana Balbanova made the strange discovery at the Egyptian Museum in Munich, she tested hundreds more mummies from the Old World. Interestingly, cocaine was found only in the Munich Museum's mummies. Some experts speculated that reckless, cocaine-using archaeologists had to have contaminated the bodies. The tobacco, though, was a bigger mystery. A third of the mummies Balbanova studied contained nicotine, and evidence of tobacco had been found in the stomach of King Ramses II and even in King Tut's tomb. But no one can say for sure how any of it got there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying this show and would like to help out with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both links can be found at our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.